I was standing in the hallway outside my son's home office when I heard Rebecca's voice drift through the half-open door. She was on speakerphone, laughing that bright, performative laugh she used when talking to her friends from the country club. Oh, trust me, Linda, she has absolutely no idea. We've been using her credit card for months now. Daniel set it up so the statements go straight to his email. She doesn't even check. My hand, which had been reaching for the doorknob to ask if anyone wanted tea, froze in midair. "You're terrible," Linda said, but she was laughing too. "What if she finds out?" "She won't. She's 73, Linda. She barely knows how to use her phone. Besides, she's so grateful we let her live here she'd never question anything. It's honestly perfect." I stepped back from the door, quietly, the way you learn to move when you've spent decades not wanting to disturb anyone. My slippers made no sound on the hardwood floor as I walked back down the hallway, past the guest room where I'd been staying for the past 2 years, and into the kitchen. I filled the kettle, set it on the stove, turned the flame to medium, not high. High makes it whistle too loud. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I thought they might shake. I thought I might feel the hot sting of tears or the cold weight of shock. But what I felt instead was something else entirely, a clarity, a sharpness I hadn't experienced in years. I made my tea, Earl Grey, 1 sugar, no milk, and I sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where I used to help Daniel with his homework 40 years ago, and I took a slow, deliberate sip. The credit card. I knew exactly which one she meant. When I'd moved in with Daniel and Rebecca 2 years ago, after my husband Arthur passed and the house felt too big and too quiet to bear alone, they'd insisted I give them access to my accounts. "Just in case, Mom," Daniel had said, his voice full of that gentle concern children use when they start seeing their parents as fragile, "in case something happens and we need to handle things for you." I hesitated, not because I didn't trust my son, but because I'd spent 50 years managing my own finances. Arthur and I had been careful. We'd saved. We'd invested modestly. We'd never been rich, but we'd been comfortable. And when he died, he left me with enough to live on without being a burden to anyone. But Daniel had been so earnest, and Rebecca had smiled that warm, daughterly smile and said, "We just want to take care of you, Mom. You've done so much for us." So I'd said yes. I'd given my credit card information. I'd signed the forms at the bank. I'd trusted them because, isn't that what family is supposed to do? Now, sitting in the kitchen with my tea cooling in front of me, I understood what trust had cost. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I simply sat there, turning the teacup in small circles on its saucer, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Rebecca's laughter still floating from somewhere deeper in the house. By the time I finished my tea, I knew what I was going to do. Not revenge. I'm too old for revenge. But reclamation. That was different. That night, after Daniel came home from work and Rebecca served dinner, chicken marsala with roasted vegetables that she'd probably charged to my card, I sat across from them at the dining table and smiled. "This is delicious, Rebecca. You're such a wonderful cook." She beamed. "Oh, thank you, Mom. I just love taking care of this family." Daniel reached over and squeezed her hand. "We're lucky to have you." I nodded. "We really are." I ate slowly. I complimented the wine. I asked Daniel about his day at the firm, and I listened as he talked about a case he was working on, something corporate and complicated that I didn't fully understand, but nodded along to anyway. When dinner was over, I helped clear the plates. I washed the dishes by hand, even though they had a dishwasher, because I've always found the rhythm of it soothing. Soap, water, rinse, dry. Simple. Honest. Rebecca came into the kitchen when I was drying the last plate. "Mom, I don't have to do that." She leaned against the counter with her phone in her hand, scrolling. "I don't mind," I said. "It helps me feel useful." She glanced up, gave me a quick smile, then went back to her phone. Well, we appreciate it. You're such a help around here. I dried my hands on the towel. Rebecca, I've been thinking. I'd like to start paying for my own groceries again and maybe contribute a bit more to the household expenses. She looked up, eyebrows raised. Oh, Mom, you don't have to do that. We've got it covered. I know, I said, but I'd feel better if I did. I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden, she said, but there was something in her voice now, a slight edge of alertness. Really, we're happy to take care of things. I insist, I said, keeping my tone light. I'll start paying cash for things. It'll make me feel more independent. She studied me for a moment, and I saw the calculation behind her eyes. Then she smiled. If it makes you happy, Mom. It does, I said, and it was true. The next morning, I walked to the bank. It was 1.5 miles from the house, and my knees ached by the time I got there, but I didn't mind. The air was cool, the sky clear, and the walk gave me time to think. Inside, I asked to speak with a manager. The woman who greeted me was younger than my son, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Her name was Patricia. "How can I help you today, Mrs. Whitman?" she asked. "I'd like to review my accounts," I said, "all of them, and I'd like to see a record of every transaction made on my credit card for the past 2 years. Patricia's expression didn't change, but I saw the flicker of something, concern maybe, or caution. "Of course, let me pull that up for you." She typed on her computer. The seconds stretched. Then she turned the screen toward me. I'd expected it to be bad. It was worse. Charges at high-end restaurants, designer clothing stores, a furniture store I'd never heard of, spa treatments, a weekend trip to Napa Valley, another to Palm Springs, monthly charges to a country club I'd never stepped foot in. $47,000. In 2 years, they'd spent $47,000 on my credit card. I sat very still, reading each line. Patricia waited, her hands folded on the desk. When I looked up, my voice was calm. "Can I get copies of all of this?" "Absolutely," she said. "Would you like me to help you file a fraud report?" I considered that. Not yet, but I would like to remove all authorized users from my accounts immediately. "I can do that right now." She typed quickly, efficiently. Within 10 minutes, Daniel and Rebecca no longer had access to anything. "Is there anything else I can help you with?" Patricia asked. "Yes," I said. "I'd like to open a new checking account, one that no one else knows about, and I'd like to transfer most of my savings into it." She nodded. Smart. By the time I left the bank, I had new account numbers, a new debit card being mailed to a P.O. box I'd rented on the way there, and a printed record of every fraudulent charge sitting in a manila envelope in my purse. I walked home slowly. The weight of the envelope felt almost comforting. That evening, Rebecca made lasagna. "Mom, could you set the table?" she called from the kitchen. "Of course, dear." I set out the plates, the silverware, the napkins. I poured water into glasses. I even lit the candles she liked to have on the table, the expensive ones that smelled of vanilla and sandalwood. When we sat down to eat, Rebecca raised her wine glass. "To family." "To family," Daniel echoed. I lifted my glass of water. "To honesty." They clinked glasses with me, oblivious. We ate. I asked about their day. Rebecca talked about a charity luncheon she was planning. Daniel mentioned a client dinner he had later in the week. "Will you be home late?" I asked. "Probably," he said. "These things tend to run long." "I understand," I said. "I'll keep dinner warm for you." Rebecca smiled at me. "You're so sweet, Mom." After dinner, I retreated to my room. It was small, just big enough for a bed, a dresser, and a chair by the window. The walls were cream-colored and bare, except for one photograph, Arthur and me on our wedding day, young and hopeful, and unaware of how quickly 50 years could pass. I sat in the chair and opened the envelope. Page by page, I reviewed the charges. I made notes in the margins. I color-coded the receipts by category: dining, clothing, travel, entertainment. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. I didn't feel tired. I felt awake. The next day, I called my lawyer. His name was Martin Cleary, and he'd handled Arthur's estate after he passed. He was in his 60s, methodical and expensive. "Eleanor," he said warmly when his secretary put me through, "it's good to hear from you. How have you been?" "I've been well, Martin, but I need your help with something." "Of course. What's going on?" I told him, calmly, clearly. I listed the charges, the dates, the amounts. I explained that I had documentation and that I wanted to know my options. When he finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Eleanor," Martin said finally, his voice heavy, "this is elder financial abuse. It's a crime." "I know. You could press charges, criminally." "I know that too." "But you're not going to." "Not yet," I said. "First, I want them to know that I know. And then, I want my money back, every cent." He was quiet for a moment. "All right, I'll draft a demand letter. But Eleanor, you need to be prepared for this to get ugly." "It's already ugly, Martin. I'm just making it visible." The letter arrived 3 days later. I made sure I was home when the mail came. I heard the soft thud of the mailbox closing and walked outside to retrieve it. There it was, a thick envelope addressed to Daniel and Rebecca Whitman, law offices of Martin Cleary, in the return address corner. I brought it inside, set it on the kitchen counter, and made myself a cup of tea. When Rebecca came downstairs an hour later, she saw it immediately. "What's this?" she asked, picking it up. "Mail," I said, not looking up from my book. She opened it. I watched her face change as she read, the color draining from her cheeks, her mouth opening slightly. "Mom," she said, her voice tight, "what is this?" "What does it say?" I asked, though I already knew. She stared at me. "This is from a lawyer. He's saying we stole from you." "Did you?" Her eyes went wide. It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Rebecca?" She set the letter down, her hands trembling. "We were going to pay you back. We just needed time." 2 years?" I asked, my voice still calm. "You needed 2 years?" "We've had expenses, Mom. The house, the club, Daniel's career. We've been building a life." "On my credit card." She flinched. "Where's Daniel?" I asked. "At work." "Call him. Tell him to come home." "Mom, Call him, Rebecca." She did. Daniel arrived an hour later, his tie loosened, his face flushed. He walked into the kitchen where I was still sitting with my tea, now cold. "Mom, what's going on? Rebecca said you got a lawyer." "I did." "Why?" I slid the printed transaction records across the table toward him. "Because of this." He picked them up. His face went pale. $47,000, I said. "You and Rebecca have spent $47,000 on my credit card without asking me, without telling me." "Mom, I can explain." "Can you?" He sat down heavily in the chair across from me. Rebecca stood behind him, her arms crossed, her eyes red. "We didn't think it was a big deal," he said. "You weren't using it. You figured that because I'm old, my money doesn't belong to me anymore." No, that's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean, Daniel?" He ran a hand through his hair. "We've been struggling. The mortgage on this place is brutal, and Rebecca's been trying to fit in with her charity friends, and I needed to wine and dine clients to keep the firm happy, and it just got away from us." "So you stole from me." "We didn't steal," Rebecca said, her voice sharp. "We borrowed." I looked at her. "Did you plan to pay me back?" Silence. "Did you?" I repeated. "Eventually," she whispered. "Eventually," I said. "That's what you were going to tell yourselves forever, isn't it? That eventually you'd pay me back, but there'd always be another expense, another emergency, another excuse." Daniel put his face in his hands. Mom, I'm so sorry. I really am. I didn't mean for this to happen. But it did happen, and the only reason you're sorry is because I found out. He looked up at me, his eyes wet. What do you want me to do? I stood up, slowly, my knees protesting. I want my money back, all of it, every cent. We don't have it, Rebecca said. We can't just give you $47,000. Then you'll sell things. The dining room set, the leather couch, Rebecca's designer handbag still tagged, jewelry I never seen her wear, the club membership. You'll liquidate whatever you need until the debt is paid. And if we can't, Daniel asked, then I'll take you to court and I'll press charges and you'll explain to a judge why you thought it was acceptable to exploit your elderly mother. Rebecca made a small, choked sound. Daniel looked at her, then back at me. Mom, please, we'll fix this. Just give us time. You've had 2 years, Daniel. That's enough time. They tried to make it right. I'll give them that. Over the next 3 months, things began appearing on Craigslist. The dining room set, the leather couch, Rebecca's designer handbag still tagged, jewelry I'd never seen her wear. Daniel took a second job, consulting work on the weekends. Rebecca canceled her country club membership and stopped going to the charity luncheons that cost $1,000 a plate. I didn't gloat. I didn't even watch them very closely. I just waited. By the end of 6 months, they'd repaid $32,000. It wasn't enough, but it was progress. One evening, Daniel came into my room and sat on the edge of the bed. I was reading a mystery novel I'd picked up at the library. Mom, said Daniel quietly, can we talk? Of course. He looked at his hands. I know I can't undo what I did. I know I hurt you, and I know that the rest of my life I'm going to have to live with the fact that I betrayed you. I set my book down. Yes, you will. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I thought about that. I thought about the boy he'd been, the man he'd become, and the choices he'd made. I don't know, Daniel, I said honestly. I don't know if I can. He nodded, tears sliding down his face. I understand. But, I added, I do know that forgiveness isn't something you earn by asking for it. It's something that happens when you prove you've changed, not through words, through time. He looked up at me. I'll prove it. I swear I will. Then do. It took them a year to pay me back in full. A year of selling things, of working extra hours, of cutting back and living smaller and learning what it meant to actually value money instead of just spending it. When the final payment cleared, Daniel came to me with a check. His hand shook as he gave it to me. This is it, he said, the last of it. I took the check. I looked at the numbers, $47,000, paid back in increments, in sacrifices, in shame. Thank you, I said. He exhaled, a long, shuddering breath. What happens now? Now? I folded the check and put it in my pocket. Now I move out. His face fell. Mom, you don't have to. I know I don't. I want to. Where will you go? I found an apartment, a small one, downtown. It's near the library and the park. It's quiet. Rebecca appeared in the doorway. She'd been listening. Mom, please, we want you to stay. I looked at her. Do you, or do you just not want to live with the guilt of what you did? She flinched. I need space, Rebecca, and so do you. You need to learn how to live without me here to take care of things, and I need to remember what it's like to live for myself again. Daniel stood. When are you leaving? Tomorrow. He nodded. There were no more protests, no more arguments. They knew it was over. The apartment was small. Just a living room, a kitchen, 1 bedroom, and a bathroom with a clawfoot tub I fell in love with the moment I saw it. I moved in on a Tuesday. I didn't take much. Some clothes, my books, the photograph of Arthur and me on our wedding day, a few kitchen things. The rest I left behind. Let them keep it. I didn't need much anymore. The first night in my new place, I made dinner for myself. Just pasta with butter and garlic, simple and warm. I ate it at the small table by the window, looking out at the street below where people walked by, living their own lives, carrying their own burdens. I thought about Daniel and Rebecca. I thought about the choices they'd made and the consequences they face. And I thought about myself, about the woman I'd been when Arthur was alive, and the woman I'd become after, and the woman I was now. Somewhere in all of that, I'd lost myself. But sitting in that small apartment, eating pasta by candlelight, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. 6 months later, I got a call from Daniel. "Mom," he said, his voice hesitant, "I just wanted to check in, see how you're doing." "I'm well. How are you?" "We're okay. Rebecca got a job, part-time at a design firm. It's not much, but it helps." "That's good. I was wondering if maybe you'd like to have lunch sometime. No pressure, just, I miss you." I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. "I'd like that." "Really?" "Really." We met the following Sunday at a small cafe near my apartment. He looked older somehow, the lines around his eyes deeper, his posture less confident. We ordered coffee. We talked about small things at first, the weather, a movie he'd seen, my new book club at the library. Then he said, "Mom, I want you to know I'm in therapy now. Rebecca and I both are. We're trying to figure out why we did what we did." "And have you figured it out?" He shook his head. "Not all of it. But I think part of it was that I'd always seen you as someone who would just handle things. You were so strong after Dad died. You never complained. You just kept going. And I think I stopped seeing you as a person with your own needs and started seeing you as a resource." I set my coffee down. "That's very honest. I'm trying to be better." "I know. Do you think we'll ever get back to how things were before?" I thought about that. "No," I said finally, "we won't. But maybe that's not the goal. Maybe the goal is to build something new, something honest." He nodded. "I'd like that." We finished our coffee. When we stood to leave, he hugged me. It was tentative, uncertain, but it was something. "I love you, Mom," he said. "I love you too, Daniel." And I meant it. Because love doesn't disappear just because someone hurts you. It changes. It becomes more careful, more conditional, but it doesn't vanish. It's been 3 years now since I moved into my apartment. I've made friends, real ones, not people who see me as a convenient fixture in their lives, but women who meet me for coffee and book club and walks in the park. I've learned to paint, watercolors mostly, small landscapes and abstract pieces that I hang on my walls. I've written letters to people I haven't spoken to in decades, reconnecting with old friends, old pieces of myself. I'm not lonely. That surprises me most of all. For so long, I thought being alone meant being lonely, but they're not the same thing. Alone is just a state. Lonely is a feeling, and I'm not lonely anymore. Last month, Daniel and Rebecca invited me to dinner. They'd sold the big house and moved into something smaller, more manageable. When I arrived, Rebecca opened the door with a genuine smile. "Mom, it's so good to see you." "It's good to see you, too." The house was different, less showy, more lived in. There were dishes in the sink and a stack of mail on the counter, and it felt, for the first time, like a home instead of a showpiece. We ate dinner together, roast chicken and vegetables, simple, good food. Afterward, Daniel pulled out an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a check, not for $47,000, for $50,000. "What is this?" I repeated. "Interest," Daniel said. "It's not much, but we wanted you to have it. It's the least we can do." I stared at the check. "You don't have to accept it," Rebecca added quickly. "We just wanted to show you that we're serious about making things right." I folded the check and put it back in the envelope. I'll think about it. And I did. Not because I needed the money, but because I needed to decide whether this was a gesture of genuine change or just another performance. In the end, I cashed the check, and I donated it all to a local charity that helps elderly people who've been financially abused by their families. When Daniel found out, he called me. "Mom, why?" Because some people don't have lawyers or bank accounts or the ability to fight back, and I wanted that money to mean something beyond just what it meant for us. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "That's really beautiful, Mom. It's just what felt right." I'm 76 now. My knees hurt when it rains. I forget names sometimes. I move more slowly than I used to. But I'm still here, and I'm still me. I see Daniel and Rebecca every few months. We have dinner. We talk. We're careful with each other, the way people are when they've been burned and are still learning to trust heat again. But it's something. It's not what I thought my life would look like at this age. I thought I'd be surrounded by family, warm and safe, and loved without condition. Instead, I'm alone most of the time. But I'm okay with that, because I learned something important in those quiet months after I discovered the truth. I learned that my value doesn't come from what I can give other people. It comes from who I am. And I'm done apologizing for taking up space. I'm done being small and quiet and convenient. I'm done letting people see me as just an old woman who doesn't understand the world anymore. Because I do understand. I understand that people will take what you let them take. And I understand that the only way to stop them is to say no. So that's what I did. I said no. And it cost me, yes. It cost me the illusion of a perfect family and the comfort of pretending everything was fine. But what I gained was worth so much more. I gained myself back. Sometimes, late at night, I sit in my apartment and think about that moment in the hallway when I first heard Rebecca's voice. She has no idea we've been using her credit card. I could have confronted her right then. I could have stormed into the room and screamed and cried and made a scene. But I didn't. I walked away. I made tea. I thought. And then I acted. Not out of rage, but out of clarity. Because rage is loud and fast and often ineffective. But clarity? Clarity is quiet. Clarity is patient. Clarity waits for the right moment and then strikes with precision. And in the end, that's what saved me. Not anger, not revenge, just the quiet, unshakable knowledge that I deserved better and the willingness to demand it. I still carry that manila envelope sometimes, not because I need it anymore, but because it reminds me of who I am. It reminds me that I'm not a victim. I'm a woman who saw a problem, faced it, and solved it. And if that makes me difficult or ungrateful or the other words people used when they found out what I'd done, then so be it. I'm 76 years old. I've earned the right to be difficult. I've earned the right to expect honesty and respect and basic human decency. And I'll never apologize for that again. Not to Daniel, not to Rebecca, not to anyone. The last time I saw them, Rebecca said something that stayed with me. We were standing in their kitchen, and she was washing dishes, and she said, "You know, Mom, I think you saved us." I looked up from the cable where I was sitting. "How do you figure?" "Because if you hadn't stopped us when you did, we would have just kept going. We would have destroyed ourselves financially and morally, and we never would have learned." I thought about that. You're giving me a lot of credit. I'm giving you the credit you deserve. And maybe she was right. Maybe by refusing to be a victim, I'd force them to stop being victimizers. Maybe by standing up for myself, I taught them how to stand up for themselves. I don't know. What I do know is that life doesn't always give you the endings you want. Sometimes it gives you the endings you need. And this one, imperfect as it is mine. Today, I walked to the park. It's a route I take most mornings now, a 2-mile loop around the pond where ducks gather and children play, and the world moves at a pace I can keep up with. I brought bread for the ducks, even though the signs say not to feed them. But I'm old. I break small rules now. I sat on a bench and watched the water ripple in the breeze. A young woman sat down next to me, maybe 30, with tired eyes and a baby in a stroller. "Beautiful day," she said. "It is." She looked at the pond. "I love coming here. It's the only place I feel like I can breathe." "I understand that." She glanced at me. "You live nearby?" "Just down the street. You?" "A few blocks over, with my in-laws. It's temporary, but it's been 2 years now." Something in her voice made me look at her more closely. "Is everything all right?" She laughed, but it was bitter. "Not really, but I'm working on it." "Good. Keep working on it." She smiled. "You sound like you've been through something." "I have." "Did it get better?" "I thought about that." "Yes, but not in the way I expected." She nodded. "That's life, I guess." "That's life." We sat in silence for a while, 2 women on a bench watching the world go by. Eventually she stood. "I should get him home for his nap. It was nice talking to you." "You too." She started to walk away, then turned back. "Hey, whatever you went through, I'm glad you made it to the other side." "Me too." And I meant it. That evening I made myself dinner. Nothing fancy, just soup and bread. I ate slowly, savoring each bite, the warmth of the broth, the softness of the bread. When I finished, I washed the dishes by hand, dried them, and put them away. Then I sat in my chair by the window and watched the sun set over the city. The sky turned orange, then pink, then purple, and finally dark. And in that darkness, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness exactly, but peace. The kind that comes from knowing you did the right thing, even when it was hard. The kind that comes from standing up for yourself, even when everyone told you to sit down. The kind that comes from living your life on your own terms, even though those terms are lonely. I closed my eyes and let that peace wash over me, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt complete. I'm Eleanor Whitman. I'm 76 years old. I was married for 50 years to a man I loved deeply. I raised a son who betrayed me, and I survived. Not because I'm special or strong or particularly wise, but because I refused to accept that being old meant being powerless. I refused to accept that being kind meant being stupid, and I refused to accept that loving someone meant letting them hurt me. So I stood up. I said no, and I took my life back, one credit card statement at a time. If you're reading this or hearing this and you see yourself in my story, if you're the elderly parent being taken advantage of, if you're the child who realizes too late what you've done, if you're the bystander who sees it happening but doesn't know what to say, know this. It's never too late to tell the truth. It's never too late to make things right. And it's never too late to remember that every person, no matter how old, no matter how quiet, deserves dignity. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt anymore. I'm just here, living my life on my own terms. And that, in the end, is enough. The envelope sits in my desk drawer now. I don't open it often, but sometimes on hard days when I wonder if I made the right choice, I take it out and read through the pages. $47,000. 47,000 moments of betrayal. 47,000 reminders that I was worth less to them than a vacation or a handbag or a dinner with people who didn't really care about them. And then I closed the envelope. I put it back in the drawer. And I remember, I'm worth more than that. I always was, and I always will be. The end. If this story resonated with you, please don't hesitate to like this video. Join the family by subscribing to this channel so we can share more with each other. Please leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from.